Hi everyone! Welcome to the Babbling Bee. I'm Taylor, and today we are going to attempt for the fourth time to film this video in which I talk about my reading experience of Charlotte Bronte, A Fiery Heart by Claire Harman. If there is a goblin in here trying to thwart my attempts to do booktube today, please just know that I would like to do anything I can to appease you. Just let me get through this, please. Okay, let's hope that we're in it to win it, guys, because good grief. Okay, so this lovely book, which is going to hopefully give me some nice muscle tone by the time I get done filming today, because I've been holding it for a long time. This lovely book is the first book that I have finished in 2021, and I'm so glad to have started off the reading year on such a strong note. Everything else that I read this year is gonna have a lot to live up to, guys, because I was just absolutely thrilled by this. I'm gonna put it down now for a little bit because it's heavy, and I'll pick it back up again later. I also have a notebook with me today, which is here on the floor, so if I'm glancing down sometimes, it's because I'm trying to glance at my notes and just give my babbling a little bit of direction so that we don't just launch off into outer space. So, where exactly to start? First of all, I will just say that typically my reading experience with nonfiction is very gentle. Very quiet. So typically I, am surrounded by nonfiction books here and there, but I'm kind of just dipping in and out, maybe using them for research or just inspiration in the moment. So if I do ever read a nonfiction book in full, it's typically, typically I've got to be like super interested and invested in the subject matter to do that. But even then, that's typically still a pretty quiet experience for me, and not the same kind of experience as when I read fiction. I typically don't have that same sense of being super compelled and addicted where I don't want to put it down. But that is the experience that I in fact had with Claire Harman's biography. I was riveted, enchanted, and enthralled on every page. And I think there are several reasons for that. One of which is just that I am super fascinated by the Bronte sisters, and I'm just here to learn any amount of things about them. I just want to read about them and talk about them and watch documentaries and films about them all the time. I want to know everything at this point, from what they liked on their toast, how they decorated their rooms, their favorite and least favorite gowns to wear, all the way up through like the big ups and downs and tragedies and thrills of their personal lives and their literary careers. So, and I mean, this book did nothing if not cement that fact. Like, I am now officially a super Bronte nerd, and I just can't wait to stay on the journey of learning about them and reading about them for the foreseeable future. But, that was kind of my, like, starting point when I picked this up, but other than that, I'm not super experienced at reading Bronte biographies yet, and I haven't even read all of the Bronte's novels. I certainly haven't read all of Charlotte's novels, but I'll talk about that more towards the end of the video. So, I think I was already set up nicely to be riveted by this just because of my hype about Charlotte, but I also think that this book just did an excellent job at making itself compelling to read. So, on the one hand, there was all of this like fascinating history and historical detail and fact, but that was so nicely coupled with Claire Harman's kind of painting this portrait of Charlotte and making her like a character. So I think one of the things that makes fiction so compelling for us to read is that we get this portrait painted of this character who feels like a real person, hopefully, if the book is doing its job. And we, the reader, get really invested in this person, and we feel like we're going on this journey with them. And for me, this biography did exactly that. I was so intrigued by Charlotte's character, as Claire Harman portrayed her, and with each chapter, with each new season of her life, I just felt like I was making my way through a really interesting novel, and a novel that, you know, would make me stay up super late just to keep reading it. And I did stay up really late reading this, which is not really saying that much because I stay up really late anyway, but, you know, figuratively, it was working for me. So, yeah, and then another element of this that I thought was really strong was the element of storytelling. So for me, I learn so much better through being told a really interesting story than if you just give me a bunch of facts that I have to memorize. And in this case, I feel like the fact that this was setting out to be a biography, setting out to do scholarly and historical work, Claire Harman still was careful to not sacrifice story and to not sacrifice prose. I was very impressed by her writing throughout, and I feel like she took time to set up scenes for you as the reader. And readers are very ready to fall into a good scene and get lost, and I absolutely did. Like, this book starts out with this beautiful, haunting scene of Charlotte just walking through Brussels in the winter, being full of grief and sorrow and depressed, and it had this wonderful, just like, gothic vibe, and I was hooked instantly, and Claire Harman continued to enthrall me for the entire rest of the biography. So that's something that I really, really appreciated about this book, and something that I think I'm gonna have to keep in mind for any biographies that I read in the future, because I now realize that that is a key thing that I'm looking for, even in a nonfiction work, is a really, really strong storytelling aspect. So yeah, loved that. I also appreciated that the book was not bogged down in too much extraneous detail. I think this, you know, may be something that I need to watch out for in other biographies, and it's something that I am always nervous about when I pick up a biography, and sometimes I feel like that's with good reason, because I can tell you I'm reading another biography right now. I've been stuck in this thing for well over a year, and it's a big one. Like, it's really, really long, but if it were, you know, pared down just a little bit, and if it were written as compellingly as this biography of Charlotte Bronte, I would have finished it a long time ago. But when I read a biography, I'm here for getting to know the person that I'm reading about really, really well. I'm here for their psychology. I'm here for, you know, fascinating details about their lives. I'm here for, like, the story of who they are as a person, according to whatever writer, because obviously everybody has their different approach and different perspectives to that. But what I'm not here for is, like, hey, so this person that you're trying to read about once went to the post office, and the guy who was working at that post office actually used to work down at the butcher shop, and his grandpa actually was somebody who built the railroad that ran through, you know, these 4 villages, and the grass in those 4 villages actually went through this horrible drought one summer, and, you know, they all were, like, really worried about the grass, and, like, they just go off on these weird tangents of these, like, random side characters who don't really matter that much in terms of influencing the life and personality of the main player. So something that I thought this biography did really strongly was that Claire Harman did include, you know, detail figures in Charlotte's life, people who she interacted with and dealt with on a regular basis. You know, there was plenty of, like, rich historical and factual detail there, but it was all focused on helping you uncover layer after layer of Charlotte's personality and her psychology. So I really appreciated the focus there, and I didn't feel at all like I was getting bogged down in too much detail, too many names of other people or other stuff that, you know, I didn't really want to have to pay attention to. So yeah, that made it super readable and even more compelling. But I think ultimately, the thing that I most appreciate this biography for is that it has really made Charlotte Bronte a person to me. And what I mean by that is that, you know, I think we often think of historical figures or famous figures as being figurative. Like, you know, they're these faces that we might see depicted in a history book, but actually they were real human beings, and we should therefore be able to find some sense of the kindred with them, because, you know, they went through emotions and ups and downs and heartbreaks and tragedies and triumphs just like we do. And I think I really appreciate a biography or any historical work if it takes the figures that it's dealing with and turns them into real flesh and blood people. And I feel like Claire Harman did that for me in this book. I feel like Charlotte is now an old friend, and a friend that I would love to actually get to meet someday, maybe not in this life, but the next. I cried as I read about her heartbreaks and tragedies, and even some of her, you know, profound moments of beauty. And when it was over, I was devastated. I mean, I seriously, like, had to go through, like, a little mini literary grieving process when I finished this book. Like, you know, you can imagine, like, getting a novel hangover after you read, you know, a wonderful story full of fascinating characters that just tug on your heartstrings. This book was exactly like that. So again, I can't say enough how impressed I am that this work of nonfiction was as compelling and enchanting as a novel. Like, that is just so impressive to me. So yeah, I can't recommend this in the sense of, like, you know, from the perspective of someone who is a scholarly expert on the Brontes. I don't know how accurate it is. I'm not smart enough to know that, but I just know that I had a wonderful time reading it, and I appreciate it for paying attention to prose, not sacrificing on storytelling, and making Charlotte, to me, feel like a real, relatable, kindred spirit person. So yeah, I would love to know if you've read this, or if you've read anything else about the Brontes, or if you have any favorite biographies that you would like to recommend. But I'm going to stop this now and go get a giant mug of tea to hopefully restore my voice back to me, because I've been talking for like an hour, even though this is not actually that long of a video. Anyways, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day of reading, and I'll be back for another video soon. Thanks for watching. Bye!